The old engine roared back to life just as the evening sky turned gray, but no one expected the real miracle to happen a few minutes later. A worn-out single father stood in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio, grease covering his hands after spending hours repairing a neighbor's broken car without asking for a single dollar. As he wiped sweat from his forehead, he turned toward the front porch and froze. His neighbor stood there holding a baby bottle in trembling hands, her eyes filled with silent tears, as if she had been carrying a burden far heavier than a broken vehicle. That moment would change two lonely lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, compassion, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Forever. Your support helps us bring more heart-touching stories every week. Jacob Turner had been raising his 6-year-old son, Mason, alone ever since losing his wife several years earlier. Every morning began before sunrise as he balanced construction work, school drop-offs, grocery shopping, laundry, homework, and bedtime stories. His small rented house in Columbus, Ohio, was never perfect, but it was always full of love. Money was tight, and every unexpected expense felt like another mountain to climb. Yet Jacob had made one promise to himself: no matter how difficult life became, he would never stop helping people whenever he could. Across the street lived Grace Collins, a quiet woman in her early 30s who had recently moved into the neighborhood with her infant daughter, Chloe. She rarely spoke to anyone except for a polite wave from her porch. The neighbors assumed she simply preferred privacy, but behind the closed curtains was a woman struggling with loneliness, exhaustion, and fear. Without nearby family and trying to rebuild her life after a painful separation, every day felt like surviving another storm. One rainy afternoon, Grace's old sedan refused to start. She desperately needed groceries and baby supplies, but a repair shop estimated a cost she simply could not afford. Jacob noticed her sitting beside the car with tears in her eyes. Without hesitation, he carried his toolbox across the street. For nearly 4 hours he inspected wires, replaced damaged parts using spare components from his own garage, and carefully brought the engine back to life. When the car finally started, Grace smiled for what seemed like the first time in months. But instead of celebrating, she disappeared into the house and returned holding Chloe's baby bottle. Her hands shook as she looked toward Jacob with overwhelming emotion. She wasn't worried about the car anymore. She was overwhelmed by the realization that someone had finally noticed her pain. The bottle represented countless sleepless nights, endless responsibilities, and the fear that she was failing as a mother. Seeing Jacob care without expecting anything in return reminded her that she was not completely alone. From that day forward, small acts of kindness slowly transformed both families. Jacob occasionally mowed Grace's lawn while Mason played with little Chloe in the backyard. Grace began preparing homemade dinners whenever she cooked extra food, knowing Jacob often skipped meals to save money. Holidays that had once been painfully quiet became filled with laughter around one table instead of two empty ones. The neighborhood, inspired by their friendship, quietly joined in. Someone repaired Jacob's leaking roof. Another neighbor donated children's books. A retired teacher offered free tutoring for Mason. Life still brought challenges. Bills remained difficult, work was exhausting, and there were moments when grief returned unexpectedly for both of them. But something had changed inside their hearts. Instead of facing every hardship alone, they had discovered the strength that comes from genuine compassion. Their growing friendship reminded everyone around them that healing rarely arrives through grand gestures. Sometimes it begins with a repaired engine, a shared meal, or simply noticing that someone is silently asking for help without saying a word. Months later, during the neighborhood's annual community picnic, Jacob looked around and realized that his son was laughing harder than he had in years while Chloe toddled across the grass toward Mason. Grace smiled with a peace that had once seemed impossible. Neither of them had been searching for romance or dramatic miracles. They had simply found hope where kindness had opened a door. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Kindness Forever. Your support helps spread messages of hope, kindness, and second chances to people everywhere. Special request: before the story ends, please leave a comment below and tell us, what is one small act of kindness that changed your life or someone else's? As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the quiet Ohio neighborhood, two once broken families stood side by side, not because life had become perfect, but because someone had chosen compassion over convenience. In a world where people often rush past one another, Jacob's decision to fix a simple car became the spark that repaired something far more valuable than an engine. It restored hope, reminded a struggling mother that she mattered, and showed two children that kindness is stronger than loneliness. Sometimes the greatest miracles begin not with extraordinary wealth or impossible dreams, but with ordinary people choosing to care when no one else does. And those moments often become the stories that inspire generations to believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life forever.